Good day, friends of Buzzy. First of all, I'm sporting, styling, and profiling a new mask made by my friend Shannon Bakos. I wanted it to match because I just went to the Emory Black Lives Matter protest with the white coats. So I left my white coat in the car. It's pretty hot and humid, but it was masterful. I will put a video of how many people from all aspects of Emory healthcare system were out. Took a knee for 8 minutes and 47 seconds. It was intense. So you can see my Emory University up there. So welcome. Today on our program, I am very excited that I have a Shark Tank Friday guest. And so our secret guest is Romy Taormina. She will be joining us in about 5 minutes. But really quickly, I am going to answer some questions that I answered for reporters this week about coronavirus mysteries. So one of the coronavirus mysteries is how come there's a whole bunch of new symptoms that are just now developing, like the COVID toes and things like that. The answer is these are not new. Certainly we've known about loss of smell for a long time, and the change over time has evolved so much that we know that if you have a sore throat, you're actually less likely to have coronavirus than if you don't have a sore throat. But loss of sense of smell, we've known about it, it just hasn't been put out there. The interesting part that is coming out in terms of new research is that it seems like a lot of the clotting and the strokes and the little dots on people's fingers, that's coming from it's called endothelium, the inner layer of the blood vessels. And so a lot of what is happening that we're seeing, we now understand why, and it sort of makes sense for a lot of different constellations of things. One of the questions that I get is, why aren't we going to see huge numbers from the protesters having the proximity? And I think there are a couple things that are different now than 2 months ago. So first of all, most places have gotten a little bit warmer. You have to have either an average temperature or a high temperature of 56 degrees Fahrenheit before coronavirus is super happy. And so since now it's warmer most places, we don't have that. It's probably why we're not seeing the spread as much. The other thing is obviously that we're not as worried about hospitals being overwhelmed because it's warm and humid and we're not spreading as much right now. So those are the two big factors. The factor that makes it much worse is if you've got tear gas and you're coughing, then that's extremely bad and that does increase the risk. But Sanjay Gupta today was like, the thing is we've got so much more risk from our health system not taking care of African Americans that the balance of risk is why people are sort of moving it up and down more. But the biggest things from a healthcare risk with protesting now is warmer, more humid, and our hospitals are not overwhelmed. I think I've put out there before the fact that the only places that really saw a bump after Memorial Day were the cold places. So Alaska, New Hampshire, Oregon, Montana, those were the places where there was more spread after Memorial Day. And I don't think it's because they weren't distancing well enough. I think it's just coronavirus likes to spread when it's cold. So other questions that people are asking me about are, first of all, the hydroxychloroquine controversy. And so what happened was there were 2 different studies published in New England Journal and Lancet, like the best journals in medicine. And both of them took from one private database, and the private database wasn't able to replicate the data. So they pulled those 2 studies that showed that hydroxychloroquine caused damage. What still is maintained is that studies have not found that hydroxychloroquine helps. So it took away the 2 studies that seemed to indicate that not only did they not help, they made it worse, but they have added in, but the studies that say that hydroxychloroquine doesn't help remain. What does seem to be helping, which is great, is in even now a randomized controlled trial, is toculimab. It's one of those biologics that helps people who have rheumatoid arthritis, and the people who are getting that even those who don't have rheumatoid arthritis are very rarely getting sick. Like 5% of them are getting to the ICU point. So that's huge. So when this rolls around again, when it's 56 degrees, whatever is local for you, then I think that by then, I mean, in Georgia, it's not going to be rearing its head like crazy probably until November. So I'm very hopeful we'll have a lot more information and that we'll be able to clobber the virus early on if you get it. I'm going to talk a ton on Monday about where we are with the whole nasal spray, nasal irrigation. I'm going to probably do a Navage live. That ought to be fun. I totally choked and gagged last night like waterboarding, but I'll maybe be better at it by Monday. And right now, if nobody has any questions about any coronavirus related stuff, I would like to introduce you to my friend, Romy Taormina. I met Romy when we were both doing the Jeff Probst show, and I don't think that I had been, I don't know if I knew I was doing Shark Tank yet or not, but she had just done it, and she was in that really scary phase where you can't tell anybody anything, or they tell you you have to pay $5 million or stuff like that. So anyway, Romy is dear to my heart because she is also a medical device entrepreneur. We both did Shark Tank, and we have both had a very interesting ride with coronavirus. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Romy Taormina. There she is. How you doing, Romy? Woo.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So if you want to start out, tell people what your product is and what has happened to your business since coronavirus.
Sure. So my product is called Psi Bands, and they are a medical device for the relief of nausea. And that is due to chemotherapy, morning sickness, motion sickness, and anesthesia. And so we manufacture Psi Bands in China. And yes, we have been on a roller coaster of a journey through the corona situation, starting actually back in February when the virus was hitting its peak in China. So our manufacturing facility was delayed in returning their workers back safely to work. And once they actually got back up and running, they were operating at less than 50% capacity. So that meant significant delays in manufacturing and getting our goods.
How significant?
They were delayed by weeks.
Weeks? Yeah.
Then we were confronted with the issue of how to import the goods. So while I had the option of air freighting in the goods and or sea freighting it, I had to make a decision about which SKUs were going to be put on the slow boat from China and which ones were not. But when you air freight your goods from China, it is at a considerable cost increase. And
now
so
I'm flipping back to
all the variables and make some choices there.
I'm flipping back to me for a second because we not only had trouble with that, so ours that we wanted to get back quickly, they couldn't ship with the batteries in them, and so they had to take apart all of the 200 so that they could ship them over. So we had to buy, and they were like, we're not paying for batteries because it cost us extra. So then we had to put our own batteries back in. But I hear you. Well, not to mention the fact that it's even hard to get air flights, if there's not too many planes coming.
And because of that, again, it was supply and demand. So what normally would cost X to get it on a plane or on a boat, everything was more expensive because of the lack of ability to bring it over. Everybody wanting to do it all at the same time with fewer workers available over in China to be able to even handle that influx of products needed from us here in the States.
So what are you going to do for the fall? How are you changing your ordering to anticipate what's going to happen in the fall?
Plan in advance. Look and see what the purchase orders are, but I'm having to evaluate which stores are opening and at what timeline So, for example, my product sells at REI. Well, REI has had their doors closed for months. And so that has meant 6 months of no purchase orders that they canceled. So I have to evaluate what is currently happening over here from the retail standpoint, in addition to what is starting, the entire supply chain. I have to be aware of it all.
Wow, I didn't know that you were in REI. I'd love to know your buyer because, I could definitely see VibraCool being good for the hikers that need something portable to help. So tell me a little bit about what some of the highlights are of being involved in Shark Tank Pals, aside from me.
Yes, for sure it's the relationships. Everybody is so supportive of one another, and we really have each other's backs. And the idea is just to elevate everybody, and I really feel it just comes from the right place, and that happens, and it turns into the best return on investment. It just makes everybody feel good, and there are actionable steps to those outcomes.
So tell me somebody that you met at our 10-year reunion in New York. Tell me some story about somebody that you met on the rooftop in New York with all of these Shark Tank people.
Yeah, some of it was that maybe I've known these people virtually for a long time, but actually I've never met in person. Leslie Pearson, for example, are just people who virtually for maybe years or longer, or, like us. How often do we actually get to spend quality time together?
Yeah.
So rare, right?
Yeah.
So we may be dialoguing via email or text, or occasionally getting on the phone, but the rare opportunity to connect in person, you just can't channel that energy like you can when you're surrounded by 15 or 50 Shark Tank entrepreneurs.
I've switched you now. So I met Aaron, who is Scrub Daddy, and Aaron, first of all, is just this sort of big, fills up a room kind of guy, and he brought about 2 or 3 cases of his little Scrub Daddies, and I'd never actually seen one before in person, and so meeting him in person, and first of all finding out that he is just the sweetest, most absolutely, human rights, help everybody, try to change the world kind of guy, which I didn't expect, because he sounds like he's from Jersey, like he's gonna be like, it's all about me, but it's not about him, and that's cool. And then the other fun part about meeting Aaron is that my Scrub Daddy is green, and so whenever we have some really black stuff, we always make a little, we make hair on it, so he looks like Oscar the Grouch. So anybody that you met that there was some funny story or something that was different in person?
I wouldn't say that there was anybody in particular that stood out for me. It was just an outpouring of positive energy and support. And I just left feeling really just valued and part of this very distinct group that was all about collaboration. And my Scrub Daddy is also green. I have fingers right now, but I will say I prefer Scrub Mommy the best.
Ooh. All right. Well, here is a last question for you. Do you have a gut feeling for when you think your business will get back to normal?
I don't know what that new normal looks like, Amy. Our summer is going to be so different than what it traditionally is. Normally we have people traveling. That's what people do during the summer, and Psi Bands help those people with their motion sickness. And, potentially people will be going on road trips, but their travel is so significantly limited right now. So unless people are cooped up and getting pregnant and suffering from morning sickness and not getting divorced, then maybe we'll, it'll maybe help a little bit to have those pregnant women, but I don't know what that new normal looks like. I just have to come up with contingencies, hope that these stores are going to open sooner than later, and just manage my inventory knowing what I know. and I only know so much, so I can only do my best.
Well, I'll tell you what, we have pivoted to making pain care packages, and we are en route to making a surgical pain care package. And so when we finally have enough elective surgeries, when we're in surgery, when we're in hospitals with our pain care package for surgeries, definitely I think Psi Bands would be a great addition. So we will partner when we get to that new normal. But thank you so much for coming on, and it's just thanks. One other thing I'm going to say about Romy is that she has just from when I was down, sending me like presents in the mail. She sent unicorn slippers to Jennifer Tipping, who's one of her buddies who goes to Medica and travels. And I just the outpouring, Romy, of what you do for all of the people that you're around is really appreciated. So thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck with getting everything back to normal for you, and getting some positivity back in the world.
Thank you.
Thanks, Romy. Bye.
Bye.